What kind of seed takes 25 years to grow before you can harvest it? Well, I guess you'll have to listen to the whole episode to find out. So let's get this party started.
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I climb. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never know, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
What if you had a seed that you planted and it took 25 years to grow? Well, I can't even wait 5 minutes without needing a response on a text message. Imagine an email. I remember sending out an email a couple of days ago and I was waiting, and the person said that they were going to reach back out to me on Tuesday. And I was like, man, it is Tuesday. And then I said, it's Tuesday at noon. It's Tuesday at 1. I'm checking all the time. But imagine a seed that you planted 25, well, let's be specific, 25 and a half years ago. And that bad boy took that long to grow, and then you could harvest it after 25 and a half years. Most of us would give up on that seed. But this was a thing with my pops, plant seeds all the time. He would always tell me, he said, boy, how many apples or how many seeds are in an apple? I said 4 or 5, whatever it was. And he would ask me this all the time. And he said, but how many seeds or how many apples are in the seed? And then I'd be like, I don't know, an infinite amount. And he'd be like, yeah, he would act like he just discovered, he discovered a new planet. And he would be so excited. And my pops would, he would tell me afterwards that the success was always in the seed. See, there's so many people that have a Rachel Alexander in their life, but most of us never recognize her. And I got to ask the question yesterday, one plants, one waters, but only God brings the increase. And Vika Rader, she had me on her virtual group that she does, which is incredible. And she asked me, so what does that mean to you? And I said, well, I mean, my mind went right to my pops saying about the seeds in the apple and the apples in the seed, and success is in the seed, and you need to be planting seeds all the time. And I was thinking that way, and I was like, but I was wanting something that was concrete. I wanted to be able to give her an example of something that had happened in my life. And we talked about it, and I can't remember the exact example that I gave, but it came into fruition yesterday. So I went to my son's football practice, and I got a text message that said, how are you? I responded to it. And then I got on the phone, and a seed that was planted 25 and a half years ago had been growing for that long, and then it came into fruition. And when I say that, that's the reason why I say that there's a lot of us that have a Rachel Alexander in our life, but in most cases, we don't recognize her because she's not raising her hand and saying, hey, I'm Rachel Alexander. Well, back in the year 2000, I got on a conference call with the Paul Mitchell schools, and I was an educator with Paul Mitchell, international platform artist at the time, and traveling around the country and around the world, on behalf of Paul Mitchell, which was a huge honor. And Wynn Claybaugh, who is the dean of the Paul Mitchell schools and co-founder of them, who's going to be on the podcast here soon, so you're going to absolutely love it. He's an incredible guy. He gave me the opportunity to say a couple of words. And so all the Paul Mitchell schools were, I think there was about 4 or 5 or 6, I can't remember how many, but there wasn't that many. And all of the major educators from Paul Mitchell were on the call too. And he gave me the opportunity to be able to speak, and I knew it was like a minute, so I said it quick. I said, every one of you out there, whether it be a student in school or the learning leaders, the teachers or administrators, you all tell me that you would like me to come to your school, but you have all said to me that, oh, you're too busy though. And I said, I want to tell you today that I'm not too busy. All you have to do is ask and I will come. No questions asked. And it was one of those things where I just said it because I wanted to be around. And I remember getting a call afterwards from one of the top educators with Paul Mitchell. And he said, that was the dumbest thing you could ever do. That's career suicide. And now you're going to be working for the rest of your career for free. And I was like, I mean, I didn't see it that way, but I was like, okay, whatever. And I just took it. And then, so people started calling and I started doing a lot of work in the Paul Mitchell schools and traveling around. And this happened, it was 20, 25 schools a year that I did. And this was for about 11 years. And in early 2011 or mid 2011, I got a call and it was from Wynn. And this is 11 years later after doing, 20 schools a year. I would do it for free, take my staff with me, all the stuff. And he called and he said, hey, I just want to let you know that we chose 12 people to be able to go into the Paul Mitchell schools and get paid, and you're one of them. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's such a great, honor, all this stuff. And then I had a bunch of other educators call me and say, how can I do that and get paid going to school? And I said, oh, well, here it is. Like it takes 11 years, for the next 11 years, do it for free and travel around and do all this stuff. And they're like, no, that's not what I was asking. I was asking, how do I get paid? And I just kind of laughed it off. And then I just didn't answer the question and I just moved on. Well, one of the first calls that I got in 2000 was from a school called Provo, right? So it's Provo, Utah, and it's the original Paul Mitchell school. That's where the original hub was, and the very first one. Well, that was the first school to call me on my offer that I would come in and do a class for them. So they wanted that, and so I got my crew in the car. There was probably about 4 or 5 of us, 3 or 4 or 5 of us total. We didn't have enough money for a hotel. So we stayed at a friend's house and slept on their living room floor and then did a class there. Little did I know that there was a girl in the audience named Rachel Alexander. And Rachel Alexander, went on to graduate from the Paul Mitchell School. And then she went on and, did a bunch of stuff in her career. And probably about 6-8 months ago, she got hired at a company that franchises, helps to be able to franchise hair schools. And they were having their annual convention, and Rachel went to her bosses and said, we've got to hire this guy to come in and speak. I saw him, you need to have him. And so that was the call that I got yesterday. And so I got the call yesterday to let me know that they had secured me as the speaker, as the keynote speaker, bringing me in to be able to speak to their company. And that seed had been planted 25 and a half years ago, and it just came into fruition last night. So when Vika asked me about one plants, one waters, and only God brings the increase, I had no idea. But imagine this, like God had an idea. God knew that I would go from the professional beauty industry into the speaking industry, and then I would be at a point where now I can be hired in for that thing. I mean, it blows my mind, but it was 25 and a half years in the making. And that seed time and harvest is everything. And so it really jogged my memory of my pops, which was awesome, about all the things that he would talk about planting seeds. And the thing is my pops was always giving me, ways to be able to look at different seeds, be kind to people, all these things. But when I went into Proverbs 17 today, it was nice. This blows my mind too, because 3,000 years ago, Proverbs 17, which is the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day, in this Inchstones kind of thing that we do. And yesterday was the 16th. Today was the 17th. I sat down to be able to write out that story about the Rachel Alexander that a lot of people, every one of us has in our life, and you're going to have one today. But a lot of times we don't recognize her. And I wrote that story out. And then in Proverbs 17, it encourages us to examine the quality of the seeds that we're planting. And in true wisdom fashion, it gives us the blueprint on how to plant the right ones. See, I didn't know that my pops was teaching me and my mom was teaching me how to be able to plant the right seeds. But it listed it out in blueprint form. The cool thing is with a blueprint is that it's there, but it does not work unless you actually use it and apply it. And that's what I'm going to invite you to do is not only just listen to my translation of Proverbs 17, I would suggest read through it for yourself. Read through it for yourself and see what the word speaks to you. That's the cool thing. Like on my right-hand side, well, most of you are listening on Apple, but if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, on my right-hand side, there's the book right there that I wrote, and it has corresponding proverb, corresponding day, and then it has a place in the journal. What verse hit your heart? What did it make you think about? And what action can you add to it today? And I did this because this is the practice that I do every single day. And so when I went down to the beach today to spend some time with the Lord, he was able to reveal to me in Proverbs 17 something that had been in the works for 25 and a half years. And today it came into fruition. And here's the blueprint on how to be able to plant the right seeds in your life. This stuff, honestly, I do this every day, but it still blows my mind. In verse 1, it talked about doing right is better than doing more. And I have fallen victim to this because I've thought that, if I just do more podcasts, if I do more social media, if I do more of this, it'll be great. And what God is saying is like, no, I want you to do the right thing. Like if you do the right thing, you don't have to do as much of it. And if you do the right thing, like think about this, like right work is diligent work. When you're diligent as opposed to busy, it changes things. And this was monumental for me. And so doing right is better than doing more. That's the first thing in planting great seeds. When you have the Rachel Alexander in the room, and all of you will throughout this day, there's some sort of Rachel Alexander in your midst that you're planting a seed in their life, and it's going to take 25 years, it's going to take 10 years, it's going to take 5 years, it may take a couple of months for that thing to be able to come into fruition. But be conscious, because every day, and when you're around people and you're living your life, you're planting seeds. It could be from your reaction. It could be from your action. It could be from any of these things. It could just be from a word that you said. And I would like to think that I knew what I said and I was so conscious of it, and I knew that Rachel Alexander was going to change my life and impact my life later on. But I had no idea. I was 24 years old. I was 24 years old. Now I'm 50. The seed that was planted when I was 24 years old is now coming into fruition. So in verse 2 and 24, take thought of the future. When we take thought of the future, we take a breath. This was a question that Vika had for me yesterday too, and we were talking, and she asked me about prudence, and I said, well, once I understood the meaning of the word prudence, it made things a lot different, because prudence, or being a prude, or or being prudent, wasn't the most exciting, sexy word that I had ever heard in my life. But when I understood the meaning of it, which was take thought of the future. And if we just slow down and we take thought of the future, my brother is so good at this. And James Dixon and I, one of my very good friends, we've talked about this. If we take thought of the future, we take a breath, we slow down, and we take thought of the future, a lot of the decisions that we make right now, that we make on emotion, that we make snap decisions, they probably wouldn't happen. Or maybe they would be different. So in verse 3 and 23 is check your motives. This was a big one, because check your motives on why you're doing what it is that you're doing. I found that, and I ran into a buzzsaw with this, where again, I thought if I just do more, everything will work out. No, if I do right, everything will work out. If I take thought of the future, if I check my motives and see truly where my heart is at, because when your heart is in the right place, the overflow of your heart will be your words, and your words will cause you to move in that direction. So your actions are caused by your words are caused by what goes into your heart. And the only way for something to get into your heart is through your eyes, through your ears, and through your senses. So just be conscious of the things that you're intaking. In verse 4, what and who are you listening to? And what is music to your ears? This one's a tough one for me too, because I'm a 90s baby. So I grew up in the early, I know when I say a 90s baby, I was born in 1975, but you're coming into age of in the late 80s, early 90s, the golden age of hip hop. All of you who want to argue it, come on the podcast. Let's talk about it, and I'll show you the right way. The golden age of hip hop was so great, and that was music to my ears at the time. But there are some songs that I'll listen to and I'll be like, man, how was that music to my ears? We've got to be very conscious of this. What and who are we listening to? Because that becomes our reality. And then what is music to your ears? What really perks you up? What moves you? And my wife laughs at me now because I do listen to hip hop, De La Soul. Listen to, if you have not heard the new Arrested Development album, maybe it's album, CD, download, whatever it's called, adult contemporary hip hop, you need to stop right now. Stop this podcast, although it's important, and I need you to go and listen to that. It is unbelievable. It is so important at this time right now, that particular album, CD, whatever we call it, and Speech from Arrested Development is going to be on the podcast, and his producer, Configa, is going to be on too, which is going to be amazing. And we're going to talk about that. But that right now is music to my ears. My wife laughs at me because a lot of times I listen to, contemporary hip hop, or I listen to hip hop, De La Soul, Arrested Development, things like that. But I also listen to Christian music. So Maverick City music. And so she's like, it's a contrast. It's so far apart. But those are the things that are music to my ears. Forrest Frank, Annie's right now. Forrest Frank, probably my favorite. Can't wait to have him on the podcast at some point too. He doesn't know he's going to be on, but he'll be on soon. In verse 5 through 19, and this was very important, so I want you to listen, buckle up. You'll probably have to rewind this a couple of times because I'll speak fast with it, and verse 26. Watch this. This was a crazy blueprint. Be kind, focus on your family, speak life, being generous, loving, being truthful, fearing God, doing the right thing, gaining wisdom and understanding, being a great friend, honoring your word, staying out of debt, steering clear of silliness. These all plant great seeds. I would invite you to go back and stop that, write them down, and I'll say them one more time. Being kind, focusing on your family, speaking life, being generous, being loving, being truthful, fearing God, doing the right thing, gaining wisdom, understanding, being a great friend, honoring your word, staying out of debt, steering clear of silliness. All of these will plant great seeds, but most likely that clip right there will not go viral. What would go viral if I said something just out of pocket, crazy, silly, whatever it is. But those things are going to plant great seeds in your life. And those seeds will be watered by somebody else, and they'll grow, and then they'll come into fruition. They'll harvest, and the increase will come on God's time, right? That's the hard thing. In verse 20 and 27, your heart determines your words determine your actions. So guard your heart and fill it with the wisdom and love that comes straight from God. In verse 21 and 25, honor your parents in action and in word. In verse 22, a cheerful heart is good medicine. Now, verse 28, fill your heart with wisdom and love, and use your words wisely with thought of the future. I am so grateful for God's grace, because probably I said some things 25 and a half years ago in that audience in the year 2000 with Rachel Alexander in the audience that probably could have caused her not to say anything, caused her not to connect me with a phenomenal company that I now get a chance in April to be the keynote speaker at their convention. I'm glad for his grace. See, I had no idea that Rachel Alexander was in the room. I had no idea. I would love to think that I planned it out and I said it, but I didn't know. But it's incredible because God created a blueprint for us in Proverbs 17 and let us know how to be able to plant the right seeds. And I want to thank you, Rachel, if you're listening. Hopefully you will listen. And I want to thank you so much because Spec, who is the company that I'm going to work with and do the keynote for, unbelievable company making waves in the professional beauty industry. And Rachel, the reason why I'm going to be there is because of you. And I want to thank you. And I want to invite every single one of you today that there is a Rachel Alexander in your midst. There really is. There's a place that you're going to walk into today, and you're going to have the opportunity to be kind. You're going to have the opportunity to, be out of pocket. You're going to have the opportunity to be mad because something's going to happen to you. But I want to invite you that honestly, like planting seeds, that you do it all the time because you never know. My pops would always say to me, you never know where someone's from. You never know where they're going, and you never know where you'll meet up with them again. So make a friend out of everybody. And so I think that it would be wise, right? It would be wise to apply that blueprint that God gave us in Proverbs 17. And it would be wise to continually plant seeds in the right soil. And that soil, the way that we get the soil right is just by spending time with God. He'll prepare the soil. You plant the seed, someone else will water it, and he'll bring the increase. It's amazing what can happen when we allow God to do his thing. As I look at my notes today, I look at it and this is what happens when we keep planting seeds. And I promise you that at some point that Rachel Alexander will show herself. And even if it's 25 and a half years later, I want you to never lose heart in planting the right seeds and doing the right thing, because when you do the right thing for the right reason, the right things turn out. And it just takes me back to that place where my pop would say, boy, keep planting because the success is in the seed. I hope you have a phenomenal day today. Check out all the sponsors. Do the things that you know you need to do, but spend a little bit of time with the Lord today. I want to tell you, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the